How can we explain the historicity of Jesus' resurrection? Imagine trying to piece together a story from over 2,000 years ago. How do we know what really happened? The resurrection of Jesus is a key event in Christian faith, but how do we know it's a real historical event? Let's look at some facts that help us understand this better. First, most historians agree that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person who was crucified by the Romans and died. This is supported by multiple sources from both Christian and non-Christian writers. The fact that Jesus was executed is widely accepted and forms the starting point for the resurrection story. Next, the accounts in the New Testament describe Jesus being buried in a tomb by Joseph of Arimathea. A few days later, the tomb was found empty. This empty tomb is a major piece of evidence because it is mentioned in several gospel stories, and they all agree on women being the first witnesses. This detail is important because at that time, women's testimonies were considered less reliable, so early Christians wouldn't have invented it just to make the story believable. The empty tomb suggests that Jesus' body was no longer there, which raises questions about what happened. Then, there are the post-resurrection appearances. Reports tell us Jesus appeared to his disciples and others in a physical form after his death. For example, the Apostle Paul, writing within a few decades of these events, mentions over 500 witnesses, many still alive at that time, which meant others could verify their stories. These appearances happened in different settings and to different people, making hallucinations or fabrications unlikely. The early followers of Jesus also proclaimed his resurrection boldly, even when they faced persecution or death. Paul points out that if the resurrection was false, the disciples wouldn't have endured suffering for it. Their willingness to face hardship suggests they truly believed they saw the risen Jesus. Lastly, the New Testament describes Jesus' resurrection body as physical but transformed. Unlike Lazarus, who was raised but still needed help, Jesus could pass through walls and was not subject to death or decay. This shows a continuity with his previous body but also a new glorified state. When we look at all these facts together, they form a consistent picture. The death of Jesus, the empty tomb, the multiple appearances, the bold proclamation despite risks, and the nature of his resurrected body all support the idea that the resurrection is a real historical event. Understanding this helps us see why the resurrection is so central to Christian faith and invites us to reflect on its meaning today.